If you've followed this channel, if you've seen the theory videos, if you've researched Final Fantasy 15 in any way, shape or form, you will have come to the realization, the enlightenment, that Final Fantasy 15 had layers upon layers upon layers of story hidden beneath the surface. Intricately woven, mind-blowing breadcrumb trails that Square Enix left us that have absolutely turned my brain to jello. That Square Enix have thought so deeply on the story level, that they left us clues, that they left us hints. But guys, I'm afraid to say with all the theory videos I've done, I have but barely scratched the surface. That's right guys. Perona77, I must shout them out again, they have released a whole new chapter called the EOS Revelations. And that's why, knowing how much you guys love the theory videos and having your minds blown, I am delighted to announce that this entire week, and possibly even 2 weeks here on this channel, Theory Week, nothing but week after week of theory videos coming out that are going to blow your mind. So if you are not subscribed and you want your mind blown and your perspective changed, hit that subscribe button because it's happening guys. An entire week of Peasant theory videos. I know there are some of you out there who just queed your pants. I heard it. This is going to be crazy. So without further ado, let me begin with just one of the many videos to come. And this is the Stitch in Time. So like I said previously, this was a video that I had started recording because I could see what Square Enix were doing and how much potential and possibility with this aspect of time being manipulated in the game, just how much Final Fantasy 15 is affected by this concept. And I started the video, but Perona77, they released EOS Revelations just last night at the point I'm recording this, and they added even more supporting evidence for it. So I'm going to cover it, so shout out and credit Perona77 for huge portions of this video. They're going to be getting a hell of a lot of credit in a lot of the upcoming videos, and in some cases they're going to be getting all of the credit. So shout out to Perona77. Everything they have come up with and discovered, it deserves as much exposure as possible. So again, I'm going to leave links to the EOS Revelations in the comment section as well. But Fabula Nova Crystalis. This was, for anyone who doesn't know, what Final Fantasy 15 was supposed to be connected to. Fabula Nova Crystalis is the 13 trilogy universe, and what they share is a base lore and some very strong base concepts that really make it FNC. Now we know that Versus 13 was connected, but it then did officially get disconnected. Tab2 confirmed that, but at the same time he confirmed it, he said that still a lot of the base, they were trying to keep a lot of the base concepts and ideology in 15 to make it identifiable to Versus 13. So that's confirmation guys, that there is Fabula Nova Crystalis, and when I think of Fabula Nova Crystalis, what really jumps out to me, more than anything, it is time paradoxes, time travel, alternate realities, the ability to bend, manipulate, or completely freeze time, and a lot of that in the 13 trilogy stemmed from the chaos. Something that Caius Ballard had huge predominant control over, and that's why he could also affect and manipulate time. Well, I'm pleased to say that concept remained hugely in Final Fantasy 15 in such a predominant way that I think when it actually happened, it just saw over a lot of our heads that time was being manipulated, and Square Enix have left so many clues that this was still in the game. And the reason why this is important guys is this changes everything. It changes whether Luna and Noctis really died, whether the bros died, whether the entire game even happened, whether there are multiple cycles, whether Noctis has gone on. I'm telling you guys, this is crazy. So let me get into it, exactly what happens with time in Final Fantasy 15. EOS, the most important figure in Final Fantasy 15. Everything came from EOS. In fact, the world itself is called EOS, and there's going to be a theory video coming up explaining why that is, so look forward to that. But EOS, the goddess who was trapped down in Pisios, she had twins. Ifrit went down, reclaimed her. Ifrit, the pyre burner, burned her corpse at the Rock of Ravito, and that released the Star Scourge into the air. Pretty deep, pretty heavy stuff. But we also know that the Lucis household line was derived from EOS. They are watered down descendants of EOS, and their power comes from EOS. In fact, the crystal itself is EOS's heart. So bear in mind that nearly all of this power derives from EOS and the crystal. As we know, indeed the ring, the Lucii, everything, it comes from EOS's heart. When I look at all the places that time was used in this game, it all connects back to one simple conclusion, that part of EOS's magic is the manipulation and the control of time. So let's start with Umbra. One of the biggest and most obvious one. Umbra is a messenger who follows the Lucis line closely. So Prina was connected with Luna and the Florets, but Umbra was far more connected to the Lucis household and being the one who communicated with Noctis. Now what is special about Umbra? Well, isn't it a bit of a coincidence that he is the dog, or the messenger should I say, that is linked to the Lucis household, and he has one core key artifact on him, and that is the amulet that allows you to travel back in time. So when you go to Ortisia, you're able to travel back in time, and that's the thing guys, it is canonical in the game. Time travel is canonical. Umbra actually creates a stitch in time with the amulet, and even the amulet is the shape of a paw print. Now what created this amulet? What was it made from? Being that it tells us, the amulet itself, the description, it was the only thing that told us about the 24 messengers and pieced together that entire 24 messengers video I did. Well, the messengers, they answer to Noctis. And previously they've answered to all the Lucis kings, most predominantly the King of Light. So we saw that Ardyn back in the day, the messengers used to bow down to him. As a chosen king, he can use it at his whim, and that's why I'm going to say outright that the amulet in the shape of a paw is made from none other than a piece of the crystal itself. Oh, I'm telling you guys, and there's some real supporting evidence for this, because Ardyn Izunia is the second thing I'm going to get onto. Ardyn is closely related to Eos. In fact, he's closer related to Eos than Noctis is. Noctis is far more watered down. And that's why I believe that Ardyn, on top of that and the fact that he's had thousands of years to truly harness and find the use of his power, that's why that in the train scene, remember guys, he used a stitch in time simply to fuck with Noctis's head. He froze time, on top of using the illusions when he disguised himself as Prompto, but we definitely saw that he froze time on that train. I was trying to find an explanation of how Ardyn did that, and this is it. This is the link, this is the connection, so going even further, and this is why I come into the stuff that Perona77 brought to the table. The Omen trailer. And there's going to be a huge Omen trailer theory coming up on exactly what the Omen trailer was about. And it is mind-blowing. But just a little snippet from the Omen trailer, one of the things we did see was Regis talking to the crystal, and then there was that dark, ominous, malevolent voice. Regis said, "How many must die before you're satisfied?" The voice said, "I have seen many deaths, but now I look forward to only one, and then I can rest. He will take responsibility, you know, as must we all." His voice acting award 2017, and Regis finished off with "May the gods forgive me." Now why did Regis say that? What sin was Regis committing? What was Regis doing that would anger the gods and turn him from their favour? Well, the sin was this guys. The entire Omen trailer was a voice in the crystal telling Regis about what would happen to Noctis if things weren't changed. So Regis, he responded to this Omen by sending the brothers along, because he saw that in the Omen, Noctis was alone and he was going on this journey alone. So that's why Regis did everything in his power to try to stop that event from happening. I'm going to say it straight guys, who was the voice in the crystal? Well, Perona77 created this little clip, and I'm just going to play it for you.
I have seen many deaths, but now I'm only looking forward to one, and then I can rest. That is how you would end it. I have seen many deaths.
Oh, it really could be Ardyn. And in fact, when you see the Omen theme video that is coming up, hopefully this week, there's so much evidence as to why that was Ardyn's voice. But what this means, guys, is Ardyn, who knows how to create a stitch in time in that crystal and in that Omen moment there, he was actually tipping Regis off. Not only about what he had to do to change time, but actually how to create a stitch in time. And he sets Regis on the path to doing just that, creating a stitch in time. Something that is a very deep and grievous crime. Playing with that kind of magic and doing what Regis does, creating holes and fabrics in time just to save his son, is serious guys, it is heavy. And again, I'd like to cover all of this, but you'll have to go to Perona77's link to go see all of it. He actually says that Ardyn was leaving us clues throughout the game. So when he said things like, right at the end when he died, when he says, Will I be erased to the pages of history once more? When he was flipping the Oracle Ascension times, when he said to Noctis, when will you wake up? And everything he does with the dead bodies in the throne room, it was all a hint. And of course the train scene, that Ardyn knew how to create stitches in time. But why did Regis create a stitch? What evidence do we have for it? Well, after seeing that omen, Regis despairs. And we see that it was when Noctis was 5 years old that this happened. And I strongly believe this then links to the Dawn trailer, when Regis is holding his son and he's mourning his, it said 15 years ago, could but mourn his son's destiny. That was when Regis realised in the omen what Noctis's fate was. And so he goes away, doing everything in his power to try to avoid it. And he doesn't just, like I said, he sent the brothers along, but it goes so much deeper. The theory goes that he went to the crystal and he plucked a piece of the crystal again and he fashioned it into the carbuncle statue. And this carbuncle statue, we saw it in Brotherhood. Now, we saw it when Noctis, he was injured by the Marilith, and Regis placed it near his pillow so that it would heal him. But it goes a lot deeper than that. When Regis created that carbuncle statue, remember my theory video about how the ancient Greeks would have to create a statue or some sort of figurine for their gods to be able to manifest themselves? Well, we know that in this game there are Titan statues, there are Ifrit statues, and we've seen even monuments for Leviathan as well. Well, that's what I believe that creating that statue was. It was to actually bring carbuncle. And that is what put Carbuncle on Noctis' journey. Remember, in the actual game, Carbuncle, you can see him in certain pictures. He appears kind of like Gentiana. He's a hidden guardian force for Noctis. In times of trouble, Carbuncle can appear. He can even revive. In the case that you get KO'd, Carbuncle can revive you. And that's all because Regis created it. He created a guardian to follow Noctis on his journey. But again, it's fashioned from the crystal of Eos. And that means time travel, time paradoxes and alternate realities. Now I want to go over to the World of Verses rumour that is coming out, that's going to be the unannounced DLC. When I said that in this theory, it happens when Noctis is 10 years in slumber. And it happens in his dreams. And a lot of people came forward and said, oh, that sounds shit. That means that none of it happens. It's just all dreaming and fake and none of it's real. That's not true, guys. Noctis doesn't just dream. What he dreams about is real. What he dreams about actually affects the real world. And in fact, what I believe when Noctis dreams, he creates other realities and he visits other realities. And the reason for that is because he has Eos's power. So his dreams aren't normal dreams, and proof of that is the Platinum demo. That happens after Noctis is 5 years old. So after the Carbuncle figurine has been created by Regis. And we know because when Noctis goes down there as a young boy, one of the first things that Carbuncle says is, this isn't just a dream, Noct. This isn't a dream. In fact, if you're not careful, you could get stuck down here. And in this place, time doesn't exist. And we saw that. We saw you could fast forward and fast back the day and night cycles. And we even saw that at the end, against the fight against the Iron Giant, young Noctis transforms into older Noctis. Time doesn't exist in this place. And that was Regis's crime. That was what he was asking the gods for forgiveness for. And Perona 77's theory even reveals that this figurine, it creates infinite time loops. Infinite time loops in which Noctis cannot fail his ascension to the true King of Light. This is what the Father has done for his son. Moved heaven and earth and bended the very fabric of time so that his son cannot fail. And that what he saw in the omen cannot come to pass. But the only outcome in which the time loop will be fixed is not the end of Final Fantasy 15. In fact, I believe it strongly. This is Fabula Nova Crystalis 101. What you think the final ending, we had it with 13, we had it with Type 0, neither of those games were the true endings. In fact, they were flipped. Type 0, the way that game ends, is not the true ending. And with Final Fantasy 15, when you can see that this was supposed to be F&C, and Tabata admitted that the same concepts, this was kind of the thought that Nomura would have had. I strongly believe it, that there would have been time loops and time paradoxes, and an infinite number of cycles happening until the desired outcome is achieved. And that's what this Carbuncle figurine, the outcome that the father wanted is one where his son survived, and one where he got that happily ever after. But the thing is, Noctis did die. The bros even possibly died, we don't know. Surely this isn't the outcome Regis wanted. And what's to say it was? If indeed The figurine is creating stitches in times, infinite loops in time, happening over and over again, and this is where it gets crazy, guys. Isn't it a coincidence that just at the end of the game, Noctis defeats Ardyn, and in his final breath utters, "It's finally over." But here's the thing, what scene follows just after that? This is crazy, guys. Remember what I said, in this theory, Regis learned about creating a stitch in time from Ardyn through the crystal. Ardyn knows how to do it, and he told Regis, he showed him the omen to set him on the path. He learned about it in the omen trailer, and just after Noctis dies, the iconic scene of the car being pushed plays in the background. The screen is black. It's finally over. Noctis ... he dies. Straight into, can it? Ready? Steady? Really? Push! They push the car. Unbelievable. Not exactly a fairy tale beginning, huh, Prince Noctis? We let ourselves get carried away. Look, these things happen, and let's just hope this isn't some omen. Oh, good googly moogly. They did it, guys. They left it in as a hint at the very start of the game. God, Square Enix, you're so clever. At the start of the game, they knew full well they was going to place that car pushing scene again at the credits. And they put that line in there. Let's just hope this isn't some omen, as a major hint and teaser. That we have finally dissected that in the omen trailer, that is where Regis learned about creating a time stitch, and it all came from Ardyn. And if you go into Piranha 77's theory fully, which I highly recommend you do, for this section of the theory it is part 8, he says that Ardyn, and there's so much proof of it, is acting more of the villain than he truly is. And in fact, a lot of Ardyn's actions is to meet the ends of what his duty first was, which was to save humanity from the Star Scourge. And that Ardyn was playing the part, and that in fact the true correct ending that must be met before the infinite loops are over is one in which no one dies. And in fact, Piranha theorizes that it's one where Noctis in fact aids Ardyn in completing the ritual, and that perhaps the American cover of Final Fantasy 15 is a depiction of the correct path. The artist, who we know is Matt Kishimoto, who created this, he stated that it was a very important location, in a very important place, and we never saw it. And that is the correct path to oppose the Lucii and bring about Ragnarok, as opposed to the one that happened. And that's the thing, guys, this is so deep, and I know this sounds crazy, and some of you may not believe it, but this is on a lore level so logical, because again, I repeat, this had to have been FNC, and base concepts had to be FNC, or they were supposed to be. And we're in the absence of things like time loops, time paradoxes, alternate realities, and cycles. Cycles is a really key one. That's precisely what the Omen trailer kind of depicted. Another eventuality, another outcome. And honestly, if you was to put, say, Type 0 in this position, which is exactly what happened, when the first cycle didn't go well, or it didn't go perfectly to plan, they had to redo it again. And you could almost replace Omen, because the Omen represented almost another cycle, and in fact the place where Regis learned about creating a time stitch. You could replace the word Omen with cycle, and imagine if a Type 0 character had said that. We played the game and then another cycle started. Imagine if one of the characters said, "Oh, let's hope this isn't a cycle." We would straight away clock it. But this is just disguised a bit better. But it's still the same thing. In fighting Type 0, you do kill the final boss, and you do save the world. And it does all go peachy and Tom at the end, and the final villain gets defeated. And yet, another cycle still happens. Because it wasn't just perfect. Because just like at the end of Type 0, it gets to a point where, although the world was saved and the villain was defeated, too many lives were lost. And that's why it starts again. Because too many lives were lost. And the game, and this is everything that Final Fantasy has always done, it has emphasized the importance of human life. And that an outcome where all of the characters die is not one that we should be praised, and where there's too many martyrs. And that's exactly what Final Fantasy 15 was. So just like Type 0 restarts it up again, this is exactly what I believe happened in 15. Because there's really something there, guys. Why else would they put the start of the game at the end? Because that's exactly what happened if it started over again. And the fact that Gladiolus at that point says, "Let's hope this isn't some Omen." Well, Omen is a failed eventuality. It's a version of the story that was a failure. and the one that Regis had to have averted. But where does the omen actually come from? Who's to say the omen is something fabricated? What if what happened in the omen trailer was real? That was a real previous version of the game, and in every single cycle, Regis is shown the previous version. Imagine if it constantly happened. No, Regis is shown what happened to his son, and Regis has to make a decision on whether he's going to create a time stitch again. Well, you can imagine if Regis in the final version saw an omen of that all over again, of him having to stab his son, of Luna dying, of all the bros possibly even dying. Again, we don't know. Regis would start the cycle up again. And that's what I believe is the significance of Regis. Remember, Tabitha said that Regis was his favourite character, and that this entire story was a story of the love between a father and son. Well, when I look at that now, oh my god. The story is 100% about father and son, because Regis, he's making it happen again and again until his son gets his happily ever after. And my respect for Regis had just soared through the roof after realising this. Square left, the big fat whopping hint, Gladiolus just happening to reference the Omen trailer. And so it just so totally implies that what happened in the game was a failed version. And so what then happens after that? We know the game starts up again, is the wedding scene. We all said and believed, and I did as well, that this was just an afterlife. No, Noctis and Luna in the afterlife. But is it? Now I look at all of this, and I kind of said it because who just randomly falls asleep on the throne? Well, I think that is another bit of symbolism right there. Because Noctis and Luna fell asleep, and the logo, which was always Eos, and is still kind of Eos, I mean the wing is still there, but the way that logo then melds into Noctis and Luna, and Eos's magic is the thing that is creating these time loops, the symbolism is totally there. But just going back to the wedding scene, it's placed after the car pushing scene. So if all of this is correct, then we could see that the first version was failed, another one started up, and that's the hint that as many will happen as the desired outcome is, which again is what Regis wanted to happen, which was for his son to find happiness. Because everything Regis is doing is for his son, it's for his son's happiness. It's not for his, he's not there for his own salvation, he's doing it for Noctis, and he's putting humanity in a constant time loop, in a constant stitch of time, all for his son. And that is what Regis is asking forgiveness for. And when that wedding scene starts up, who is narrating the happy ever after? Isn't it a coincidence that Regis just happens to be narrating it? And he says, "Dearest Luna," and he's talking about Noctis and Luna and how happy he is that they're finally getting married. It's almost like the way he's saying it is almost like a gift. Like his actions has caused this wedding to be able to go ahead, because it's finally the eventuality that they needed and that he would not let go of. Regis in every single reality would keep creating that stitch until he got the one where his son was happy. Oh my goodness. And that's why, guys, all of this means it could be real. Noctis and Luna in this version of the game, they could be alive. And they could have got married, and they could have genuinely had their happily ever after. And I know there's going to be some other retorts. So besides the sleeping, which I said really references to the symbolism of the Eos logo, some would say, but what about the throne room? It's still damaged, just like the original version. Well, in a time loop, things would still happen. A lot would still happen. There's no need to say that Insomnia still wouldn't have got destroyed, or the crystal would have still come in through the window. So the fact that that window is still destroyed does show that something still had to happen for them to get to that point. But the reason why the scene is different is because if this was the exact same scene, just in the afterlife, that's why the window is destroyed, why would the sword still not be embedded in the throne? Remember, Regis had to stab his own son, and he drove it through Noctis' body into the back of the chair. Well, the chair in the wedding scene has no blade in it, and in fact it has no stab mark in it. So it implied that that never happened. And this whole thing blows open so many possibilities for the story. Again, I've said I don't think a 15.2 will ever happen, but whatever this considerable DLC, and I have it on good word from various different sources, that the secret DLC, the unannounced one, is a hefty old DLC that's going to really bring some concepts to the game. Now, whether that's World of Verses, well, this is all possible with this. There's possibilities for the DLCs to really mix it up, and again, the rumours are saying that there's Luna and Noctis cutscenes, and I've even seen some that have said that when they're in Altissia, that supposedly the scene between the speaking on the podium and the Leviathan fight, that there's actually a huge time gap, because Noctis, in fact, he uses the time stitch that Umbra affords him to actually spend time with Luna, and there's this whole rumour that the DLC is going to be Luna and Noctis in between the Orticia moment actually spending time together, going off, and it's all possible. With all of this time voodoo in place, oh my goodness guys, this is so hype, because they could go anywhere. And in fact, Versus 13, I've even heard that's going to tie into this whole Luna Noctis going off thing, and one of the big unveils at the end of the Versus 13, and some people have said that this sounds shit, and I kind of can't believe this, but quote, that Stella will be unveiled as Noctis and Luna's daughter. Oh no, oh my goodness. See, I find that hard to believe, but that's completely speculative and not connected to this theory. The theory that Regis used a piece of the crystal and Eos's power to create multiple time stitches so that his son Noctis could have a true and genuine happy ever after. And perhaps, just perhaps, Square Enix knew that. And that's why on Regis's tombstone, just below it, they placed a marking that looked like the hands of a clock. Oh goddamn. Until the next video. Kupo!
DJ Abomination.